Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm diving into something that sounds pretty technical, but is actually super important for the UK's trade strategy, especially post Brexit. We're talking about how the UK trades cars with the USA and why that matters so much for making the right trade decisions going forward. So here's the deal. Back in 2018, the UK exported around 8.3 billion euros worth of cars to the USA. That's a huge amount. But here's the thing. When you look at what the UK was importing from the US, it was only worth about 1.2 billion in cars. That's a massive gap. Basically, the UK is shipping tons of cars over to the US, but it's not really bringing much back in return. Now, why does that matter? Well, it shows that the UK is doing pretty well as an exporter in this sector, but it's not what you'd call a balanced relationship. It's a one-way street where the UK is doing most of the selling. And when you're trying to build a solid trade policy, that's something you really need to pay attention to. Think about it. Post Brexit, the UK isn't part of the EU's single market anymore, which means it's got to figure out its own deals with big markets like the US. And when you've got a strong export position like this, you want to make sure nothing messes that up. So, what does that mean for trade policy? First off, the UK needs to lock in trade agreements that keep things running smoothly. That means getting favorable tariffs and making sure standards and regulations are aligned with what the US expects. Because let's be real, no one wants a bunch of red tape making exports more expensive or complicated than they need to be. And here's another thing, innovation is key. The car industry is changing fast. Electric cars, driverless technology, all of that. The UK wants to stay ahead and keep its spot as a top exporter. It's got to keep investing in research and development. That's what's wrong. That's what's going to keep US buyers interested and keep the UK's car industry competitive. But here's the catch. Focusing too much on one market is risky. The US is a huge deal for the UK's car exports, but relying too heavily on it could backfire. If something changes politically or economically, that's a lot of eggs in one basket. So finding other markets to expand into could be a smart move. Another thing the UK should be looking at is building up its domestic supply chains. We've all seen how badly global supply chains can be disrupted, pandemics, geopolitical issues, you name it. By producing more components at home, the UK can make sure it's not overly dependent on imports that might suddenly be hard to get. And of course, keeping track of all of this is just as important.